All right, let's call to order the Regional Transportation Commission meeting for Friday, October 20th with a roll call.
You, Devin Reese,
Here.
Clara Andriola,
Present.
Ed Lawson,
Here?
Bill Thomas,
Here.
Mary Luz Garcia,
Here.
Adam Spear,
Here.
and Darren Tedford is supposed to be joining us through Zoom, but he has not connected yet.
All right. Ms. Garcia, will you lead us in the pledge, please? Yeah, they didn't move the flags over.
Please join me in our salute to our flag. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. All right, move on to public comment. First up, I have Damian Cole.
Ready? Good morning. Sorry for 58 pages. This was intended to be a slideshow, but I thought I would have a remote. So the plan for the micromobility downtown corridor was to create a downtown micromobility network that is safer, efficient for the 51 to 56% of the people. In other words, 8 to 80. Next, please. 8 to 80 is a phrase that's been around for a while. It started with the Dutch cycling network. Next, please. This is the presentation that was given by Carrie Koski at the latest city council meeting. Low stress facility, trade-offs, remove vehicle capacity, changes to maintenance. Next, please. Vine Street Bridge. This is what's being represented. That box truck is about 1 to 2 feet away from that cyclist. That cyclist, those cyclists up there, do not represent what is down at the bottom right corner. They look more like the adventurous type leaning forward with sports gear on. Next, please. This is what you see when you're about to go up this. It feels like you're about to go on a roller coaster. No sidewalk, in the middle of the street, no facilities, and a painted line is not going to fix this. Next, please. The railing is, back please. The railing is 27 inches tall. Can you go back, please? Oh, thank you. I'm able to sit on it easily. That means that if a car hits me, I'm going to go over the edge 20 feet down to Lower Vine Street. Next, please. Motorists did not like me up there. That's a solid double yellow line. You're not supposed to cross it. Next, please. Paint means that you can use the edge of that. 10 feet of space for the motorist. They're still supposed to give legally 3 feet of space. There's not enough room up there. There's no buffer. There's no guardrails. Next, please. As I'm looking over the edge of the next one, you can tell the scale because someone is giving a jump to someone down there. When I get to the edge of that, I'm going to be sandwiched between 2 lanes. Next, please. Does it meet the goals? No, doesn't. I was scared for my life up there. I took a short video of it. Next, please. This is the minimum that I would consider this portion of it. Next, please. It's right here. It speaks for itself. Next, please. The peanut runabout. Next, please. As a gesture of goodwill, I presented this to the engineers to show them this is how I would make a multimodal roundabout. Next, please. It's a pretty awkward intersection. The bike lanes look a little bit narrow. Mixing bike and vehicle traffic could be appropriate. In other words, taking 3 lanes and smushing them into one. Next, please. It was shown as separated, but it's not. This is who it's supposed to be for. Next, please.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Cole.
You're welcome. Please do not fund this.
Amanda Nelson.
Good morning. My name is Amanda Nelson. I'm a driver for RTC Keolis. So Reno and Sparks is expanding and our cost of living is skyrocketing and unfortunately wages are not. By expanding transit services and eliminating fares, we could better serve the community. We have a huge area of Reno and Sparks with zero transit. Cold Springs, Spanish Springs, South Reno, and especially the massive industrial area at USA Parkway are part of the underserved areas. If you do not have a vehicle or are unable to drive, you would miss out on great job opportunities, doctor's visits, and the ability to come into town for shopping, which would help our economy. The bus fares are also eating holes into our passengers' pockets. Our policy is to ask for the fare. If the passenger refuses or cannot pay, we are to let them ride anyways. Many of our passengers are low income or are unable to drive. They don't ride because they want to, they ride because they have to. We should try to do better for our community. Our supervisors can spend anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes to repair a fare box, plus a drive time, and they could need to fix anywhere between 5 to 10 fare boxes per day. I feel our road soups could be doing much more important things. Not only would families benefit from free fares, but the drivers would benefit as well. Our routes would be better on time, not spending all the extra time collecting fares. We would increase ridership to pre-pandemic levels or better, and it would help increase satisfaction from riders as well. We could help reduce carbon emissions by encouraging people to ride the bus instead of driving. And tourism also contributes significantly to our economy. Free buses could help get them around town without the need for renting vehicles or spending hundreds of dollars on Ubers. We could help reduce drunk driving because somebody could get on a bus instead of behind the wheel, especially if it's free. This would be a huge step in a great direction. Making only certain routes fare-free wouldn't work. Someone may get a free ride on one route, but then I still have to pay on another, and that makes no sense. So many cities across the nation have gone fare-free for public transportation. Tucson, Park City, Utah, Kansas City, Savannah, Georgia, parts of Los Angeles, Jump Around Carson, and Lake Tahoe, to just name a few. It's time to step up our transit system. And if we cannot commit to going completely fare-free, at least please consider trying it for a real test. Maybe a few months and see how it works. And if it works, continue. If it doesn't, then go back. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, is there anyone else in the public wishing to speak at this time? All right, I'll bring you back to the dais. I'm looking for an approval of the agenda.
Got a couple changes.
Couple changes, okay.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair. Darren Tedford is now on via Zoom.
Welcome, Darren.
Thank you.
So Chair Lawson, board members, for the record, Bill Thomas, Executive Director. I have two changes that I want to mention before you act on the agenda. The first is item 4.6.2. I have asked that that be pulled from today's action. We need to do a little more work on that, and the plan would be to bring it to you in November. And then the second item, I'm going to ask Adam to make a correction to 4.4.7 to make sure that the public record's clear on the action you will be taking today. So Adam, if you wouldn't mind.
Mr. Chair, the correction on 4.4.7 is that the not to exceed amount will now be $304,260. RTC and the contractor negotiated revised terms of that contract. The revised version's been presented to you here at the dais. It's been made available to the public, and if the board approves the consent item, it would be reflected in the minutes and the record.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Reese.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have items to be pulled from the consent agenda.
Okay.
And how might I best give those to you at this time?
Let's make it in the form of a motion by pulling those items that you want to see discussed permanently or separately. I assume that's what you want, not just.
Mr. Chair, I also have a couple items I'd like to address on the consent.
So maybe what I'll do is I'll just identify my items. Those can be removed, and then we can vote on the remaining items not pulled. Is that acceptable, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Okay. So my items to be pulled for discussion are 4.3.3, 4.4.3, 4.4.6, the corrected item 4.4.7, and that is all I have to pull.
Ms. Garcia?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The items I'd like to speak to are items 4.3.4 and 4.4.1. Thank you.
Okay,
In
so,
the absence of any other changes, I'll move to approve the remaining items on the consent calendar, or consent agenda.
Okay.
okay, I've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. I got to switch modes. Get my Sparks hat off and put my RTC hat on. Consent items. So we're going to approve the consent items with discussion on 4.3.3, 4.3.4, 4.4.1, 4.4.3, 4.4.6, 4.4.7. And we're going to remove entirely from this agenda is 4.6.2. With that, I'm looking for a motion.
So moved.
Got a motion
Second.
and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, let's start off with 4.3.3.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't have a question for staff, but I pulled this item because I think there are a couple of important things to highlight for the public. First of all, this is the approval of a contract with Wood Rogers for an update to the RTIP, which occurs, of course, by this body every 4 years. First, I wanted to commend staff for selecting Wood Rogers. I know that they do excellent work, and so I'm excited that their name appears here, which it doesn't appear that frequently, so I'm happy to see it. What I noticed and was important to me is the commitment that we have made here as an agency to stakeholder engagement and public involvement. The local agency working group meetings, there'll be 3 of those, and then public workshops, there'll be 3 of those. I just think it is important because our public, it's sometimes easy to demystify things when we have public workshops and working group meetings. And so I think this is an example where I am very pleased to see that being considered at the very front end. Sometimes we get to it late, and then we are asking as commissioners why more output was not sought, or input was not sought. And so I think this is a good example of both a good process from the staff and to find a consultant. An excellent consultant was chosen, and then from my perspective, it provides great opportunity for public engagement in, our most important planning document. So I am very pleased to support it, but just wanted to make sure that we called out a few items in it.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments on that item? Okay, with that, I'm looking for a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. 4.3.4.
Mine was just a brief disclosure, so I don't know if it needed to be pulled, but I just wanted to put on the record that I am employed by the University of Nevada, Reno. I have no involvement with the UNR staff and have no pecuniary interest in this interlocal agreement.
Okay,
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. 4.4.1.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Phase 2, Sun Valley Boulevard project. I just wanted to take a moment to give a nod to this item. Sun Valley is a growing and thriving community, and it is very, very busy, in case you haven't been up there in a while. Route 5, going from Sutra to Sun Valley in my district, is incredibly used and utilized by the constituents in Reno and Sun Valley. And I just wanted to say thank you to those involved in the 2015 Sun Valley Boulevard corridor study. I am very, very excited to see the design improvements made for pedestrians, cyclists, and in regard to the landscaping and lighting and all of the improvements on this. So I just wanted to take a moment to acknowledge the work that's been done, and I'm excited to see the work that is to come.
Okay, any further discussion? Not, I'm looking for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right, 4.4.3.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I pulled this item 4.4.3, and I'll need a staff presentation.
Good morning, Chair Lawson, Commissioners. Dale Keller, the Director of Engineering for the record. So this item reflects and gives the authority to the Executive Director to negotiate the parcels that are no longer needed by RTC up at Clear Acre, 6 parcels in total, and directly negotiate that agreement with the City of Reno. The City of Reno in your staff report has sent a letter requesting that land to be used for affordable housing, and so this allows that item to move forward and be negotiated and an agreement to be presented at a future time to this board for approval. The other part of this item is this work with Truckee Meadows Water Authority, Tumwa. In that Tumwa, there's a need for water tanks up that Clear Acre parcel. In exchange for that parcel, we have some needs in the south part of the valley off of Western Skies, and that would allow us to move forward with an agreement for those transactions as well. Questions?
Mr. Keller, thank you so much for the presentation. This is an important item for a variety of reasons and why I pulled it. First, I want to thank the coordinated efforts of a variety of staff. So we've got, in this particular happening, you have Tumwa staff, RTC staff, the City of Reno staff, and you have an outside party who's interested in building affordable housing. So here we have just a lot going on, and ultimately I think this is an example of intergovernmental cooperation in a very powerful way. Obviously, the Clear Acre sites, which are no longer needed by RTC, are ones that the city desires to acquire, and you've seen the mayor's letter indicating that. So once acquired, of course, it will come with the fact that Tumwa needs to put a water tank there in that site. And sort of in exchange for all of that happening in the south end of Reno, because RTC has some roadway needs to make improvements to Western Skies, there's some trading of land, there's some provision for allowing each of the entities to get what they need out of the deal. Obviously, the land that we own as RTC will be sold for fair market value, meaning it will have been appraised and the conditions under which its sale will happen will be reflected in the sales price. But again, at the same time, this is innovation, right? This is unique, I think. I don't know that our agencies are always working so carefully together. And I think that is partly due to the leadership and also due to a number of members on this board who get the privilege of serving on other boards. So I serve on Tumwa, RTC, and the City of Reno, so I see all of the pieces of it. But now when they come together, I think that is really telling. Thank you for the work that's gone into it. I am absolutely supportive of this item, and I do think long-term it's going to bode very well for our region, as the major part of this and the reason for the city's involvement is that increase in affordable housing stock for our community members, which helps all of us in the region. But again, I think there are roadway improvements needed on Western Skies, super awesome. Tumwa has some need for the water tank. Again, great planning on your part. Really excellent work all around.
Okay, anyone else? And I couldn't agree more. We've been trying to do this for a while, so glad we finally got here. And I hope that you can work with the Northern Nevada Trades Councils to make this project come to fruition. The one I saw was around 650 subsidized houses, not affordable houses, because there's a difference. There's either fair market or there's subsidized housing. This is subsidized housing and should stay subsidized housing in perpetuity. So it's a big deal for our community on so many levels. So I want to thank, number one, I want to thank the City of Reno for following through and making this work, and Northern Nevada Trades Council, especially the RTC staff. I know I put you guys through the ringers for the last year and a half trying to make this thing work, but at the end of the day, we got there, so thank you.
Mayor Lawson, I'll also echo that comment, and I didn't mean to leave out the Trade Council. I think they are a key component of it, and again, it's innovation. It's working through the things we know, and it's finding stakeholders to find common ground that your work on this effort is going to pay off, because it's going to benefit our community and the citizens who will find stable housing.
Very
I'll
much
move to
so.
approve.
Got a motion?
I'll second.
Got a second? Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thanks, Dale. 4.4.6, approval of the public agency, local public agency, or LPA agreement with Nevada Department of Transportation for the use of reimbursement of federal funds in the West 4th Street Safety Improvement Project.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Mr. Keller, for being here on this item. I pulled this item in for two reasons. One is because it really is an outstanding moment to be grateful for the improvements that are coming to this particular roadway stretch of Reno, and also that the Highway Safety Program funds that are coming in to pay for it really speaks to the sort of local and public and national meeting of the minds on certain safety issues. I also think it's important because although there will be other agenda items today that speak to micromobility, micromobility is not confined to any one of our jurisdictions. It is something that is a growing concern by all of the jurisdictions representing on this body, and the connectivity to various networks is expanded incrementally, right? So although we have a micromobility discussion later on the agenda, this too is about micromobility in many ways because the safety improvements there will allow this section of West 4th Street to attach themselves into then other micromobility networks. And so that in that way, each drop in the bucket creates and fills the bucket. And so really, this is a good example of that. I wanted to confirm with you that we will begin construction of the project in 2025 after we've gone through all of the environmental reviews and some of the design phases. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, that's the goal, of begin construction in 2025. As you mentioned, as we talked about, not only micromobility, but is safety for all users. So that's vehicles. We have transit improvements along this area, micromodes, as well as pedestrians. So, and the other point I want to make is that $13.8 million, that's discretionary funds, could be used anywhere in the state. So I want to thank our partners at NDOT for selecting this as part of the project and allocating that $13.8 million to this project.
Well, and of course, your staff deserves the lion's share of the kudos because you are the ones who are bringing forward these grant applications in a way that is made attractive to our state and federal partners, right? So your staff is doing the hard work. We oftentimes get to sit in the position of taking credit for the work that the staff has done, and I want to make sure that you understand I see and recognize the important work the staff is doing. Am I correct that this will also extend to the Vine Street connectivity in the micromode program that the city of Reno has brought forward?
Correct. So we're making sure that we just don't end at the intersections, that they all connect. And so part of this West 4th Street project, we want to make sure it connects to another facility.
Well, and I even think about Commissioner Garcia's pointing out the project earlier in Sun Valley. Again, if you look at a number of items on this agenda, and I've only called out this one, many of them are starting to connect with each other as we expand our network, such that, again, at some point in time in the very near future, we're really going to have connectivity over all parts of this community, north to south, east to west. And I think, again, that incrementalism can sometimes feel frustrating, especially to bicyclists and other types of users. But it's coming. It just is slow because of the nature of the way that funding comes in from various sources. Different projects and roads are prioritized over others. But at the end of the day, we're trying to grow the network. So I thank you to your staff again for making sure that happens. And I'm so proud of you all for getting this safety grant.
Want to make a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion and seconding, further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. 4.4.7, approve a contract with Innovative Consulting and Engineering LLC for the independent cost estimating services related to the Arlington Avenue Bridges Construction Manager at Risk project in the amount not to exceed, I didn't catch the whole numbers, 304,000,
304,260.
260? I had 267, so I was going to go you over by $7.
Mr. Chair, I pulled this item, and there was a related item. I didn't pull both of them because I felt like we could have the conversation on either one of them. But I pulled this item because this is an important project in the city of Reno that is going to have, I think, a generational impact, but is also going to have basically a year or two impact, which will create some sadness for folks living near or using the Arlington bridges. So I wanted to just have a conversation with that. One of the things that I think is also important here is the delivery method, the CMAR method. There are, of course, various delivery methods for contracting, and I wanted to simply say to my colleagues and to the community that in this particular case, that CMAR method seems to be a very good way to get through this project, in part because what we want from the city of Reno is that the Arlington bridges are replaced, but is done as quickly as possible, which I think is the same thing that the RTC wants. In this process, the CMAR selection will, I think, allow us to identify whether there is a way to do it more quickly, and if there is, at what cost. Obviously, that is always the delivery method the CMAR method allows for that, where some other contracts don't necessarily. And so I think the contractor, because I am inclined to believe that they will come to us and provide alternative or options for how we might get these bridges taken down and then replaced more quickly. And so I'll be interested to follow that along. But again, I think for my part, I'm hopeful that the Arlington bridges will begin construction in the spring of 2025. It will really mean event season for 2 seasons in the downtown area, especially in Wingfield Park, which is used by Art Town and other groups, will be impacted. And so let us see if we can't make that 1 season if it's possible, but knowing how difficult and complex it will be to move water and do all those things. I know it'll be largely dependent on what kind of weather we have in the next couple of seasons. So again, I thank you for allowing us the opportunity. Granite construction, and is Granite on both of them? I can't remember. I'll have to look. Yeah, so CMAR, it's Avenue Consultants, Avenue and Granite, so both excellent choices. Thank you so much. And if no one has any additional questions or concerns, I'll move to approve.
Got a motion?
I'll second.
Got a second? Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. And I have to agree with you on the CMAR process. Everybody has a little piece of the pie to motivate them. Okay, let's move on to 5.1. Acknowledge receipt of a report regarding RTC staff intent to proceed with the process required by federal law to revise the Regional Transportation Plan, RTP, and the Regional Transportation Improvement Plan, the RTIP, in connection with what is expected to be referred to generally as the Downtown Micromobility Project, in order to include projects on the network of streets accepted by the City of Reno and the Virginia Street, Lake Street, Sinclair Street, St. Evans, it's got, printing's not right, Vine and 5th Street and 6th Street corridors. Not included on the project is the 3rd Street, Plaza Street, and Center Street University Way corridors. Dale.
I haven't moved. So, good morning again, Chair.
Die this morning.
I know. Members Board, Dale Keller, Director of Engineering for the record. So today I'm going to provide an update of the micromobility in downtown Reno, including what the next steps are RTC staff is planning to take. So for context, micromobility devices are small, low-speed vehicles intended for personal use, so such as bicycles, e-bikes, e-scooters. It's proven to be popular and an affordable choice for transportation for many users. So in response, RTC is looking to move more people in different ways, and that's especially in our urban core areas, and providing opportunities to expand those transportation options. These tools are new to our area, and our focus, as is shown on the graphic there, is to serve more of the population with this infrastructure. As micromobility relates to transportation planning, the 2050 Regional Transportation Plan incorporated previous studies that were analyzed transportation safety, operations, and mobility needs in downtown Reno, and it included the identification of potential projects to consider. The 2050 RTP also reflected further studies and analysis that needed to be performed and required in connection to those projects. So as an example, with the Virginia Street corridor, the 2050 RTP recommended that the City of Reno lead a study of that corridor, and RTC offer a supporting role. So the RTC board approved the funding for the city study, as well as the Reno City Council adopted those recommendations of that Virginia Street placemaking study earlier this spring. Concurrently, both RTC and the city of Reno partnered together with this downtown Reno micromobility pilot project, where we tested the usefulness of this micromode infrastructure. The results of that project was then also presented to the RTC board in April. So since that time, RTC in Reno has engaged in further planning efforts, and that's with that downtown Reno conceptual bicycle network report, which is included in the agenda packet today. So this downtown Reno conceptual bicycle network report, which we should have came with a shorter name, really conceptualizes this core network of low-stress bicycle and pedestrian facilities, which are complementary to and offset the high vehicle capacity roadways in downtown Reno. The conceptual network prioritizes the movement, safety, and connectivity of micromodes while addressing the known safety issues that we have on these corridors. So the report evaluated 7 different corridors, starting with the north-south corridors, the first one being on the east side of downtown at Sinclair, Lake, and Evans Street. Moving to the west, University Way / Center Street, also Virginia Street, and on the west side of downtown, Vine Street. For the east-west corridors, the report analyzed 6th Street, 5th Street, as well as 3rd Street. So RTC and City of Reno staff evaluated these 7 corridors and low-stress facilities in order to accomplish these goals on the screen. First one, to enhance safety. How do we increase neighborhood connectivity, creating that low-stress connections, support thriving businesses, provide transportation choices, reduce greenhouse gas emissions, enable healthy lifestyles, and lastly, and not maybe most importantly, but definitely a key factor, support congestion management, traffic congestion management. So based on the analysis of the report and outreach and engagement with the community through online surveys, also public events, as well as individual stakeholder meetings with property and business owners, city staff prioritized the following corridors. So that's Sinclair, Lake Evans, Virginia Street, Vine Street, 5th Street, and not shown on the screen is 6th Street. Last Wednesday, October 11th, Reno City Council approved an agenda item to accept these streets as the downtown micromobility network of streets. So this item that the City Council approved requested that the Virginia Street, Sinclair Street, Lake Street, Evans Avenue, Vine Street, and 5th Street be included in the Regional Transportation Improvement Program, or the RTIP. So, but this item did not address 6th Street corridor, although it was supported. It was already been a planned project that the RTC submitted a Safe Street for All, or SS4A, federal grant earlier this summer. So the improvements, to reiterate, the improvements on 3rd Street as well as Center University Ways, we were not included in that action. So from a regional perspective, this recommendation of networks of micromobility streets accomplishes the goal of first expanding that transportation network by connecting those neighborhoods, such as from the university through downtown, all the way to Midtown, supporting traffic congestion management, as well as enhancing safety for all. So shown on the screen, the pink corridors, or the recommended ones from City of Reno. The blue ones are existing, and you can see from the, once again, providing those connections from north of I-80 through downtown, down to Midtown, or also if you take a look at Lake and Sinclair, that connects directly with the Truckee River path. Also, the highlight on here is the blue dotted lines. Those are projects that are in the work or under construction, such as the Audie Wells cycle track. That's on the top of the screen. That will connect to 9th Street and then eventually into downtown. And as Commissioner Reese brought up, was that West 4th Street project that's also dotted in blue connecting to Vine Street. As for the next steps, RTC staff intends to begin the process to revise the RTP as well as the RTIP to include those projects in what is to be generally referred to as the Downtown Reno Micromobility Project. The improvements on 3rd Street as well as the Center Street University Ways will not be included. For funding-wise, staff has identified roughly $20 million of available congestion mitigation and air quality, or CMAQ, federal funds to be used for this Downtown Reno Micromobility Project. As previously mentioned, the project on 6th Street corridor was already included in the current RTP and RTIP, and would be funded through that SS4A grant if RTC is successful with that grant application. So based on the approvals that will come to this board as well as city council through an ICA, the environmental and design process would occur in 2024 with construction in the 2025, 2026 timeframe. Shown on the screen is the staff's recommended action, and I'll be happy to take any questions.
Questions from the commission? I can't believe you don't have a question, Commissioner Reese.
Well, fortunately, Mr. Chair, I like to speak often and perhaps loudly and longly, but I've already seen all of this presentation, and we voted on this at the City of Reno last week. I will say two things, and then I'll turn it back to you, Mr. Chair, if you'd like a motion. This is going to be a legacy-defining opportunity for us to expand safety infrastructure in the city, and it really then bleeds over into a regional approach, right? It's not just people from Reno who use the micromobility centers here. It's students at the university who are coming from all parts of the state. It's folks from Washoe County and Sparks who are recreating or spending time downtown. Maybe they're working there. It's visiting friends and family. So it really is a regional issue. I know it's on streets that are physically located in Reno, but it impacts everyone. It also impacts people as it connects over into things like the Audie Wells project and the various bike pathways that are along the Truckee River. And so ultimately, this is a great opportunity for us. And I'm very proud that the Truckee Meadows Bicycle Alliance was very supportive of the project after having spent a couple of years really working hard to make improvements to the project. It was a collaborative effort. The RTC staff, the city staff, really worked hard to find the best routes and the ones that were supported by the public outreach that was done. This has been a long undertaking because it existed obviously prior to the micromobility test and pilot projects from several summers ago, because it really was thought of here at this body and with the various agencies to be about how do we expand the networks for all users and in what routes will we do it. There was an interesting Venn diagram at the City of Reno when we had the presentation that I did not see here, but it really spoke to the fact that we have different users. We have businesses, we have homeowners, we have bicyclists, we have motorists, all of which have some interest in the outcome of the choices that we make. And at the end of the day, there will certainly be one or two folks who have a different view of a particular street or a particular route, but the Venn diagram really creates the opportunity for us to see how do we make all the competing issues and overlapping concerns come together for the best project. And so I'm very excited about it. It is really, I think, a monumental opportunity for us to move bicycle connectivity forward in this community. Thank you, Mr. Chair, for indulging my inquiry.
Ms. Garcia.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to echo what Councilmember Reese just said, and I agree that everyone will be impacted in this one way, shape, or form. And our wonderful colleagues at the City of Reno have done so much already to help activate spaces in the downtown corridor and bring in new business fronts and increase housing. And I think that this really is going to be a huge win for the region, and particularly those of us who live downtown and those of us that have 9 and 10-year-olds who travel these roads on their bicycles. I'm just so grateful for the focus on safety and improvement to the overall quality of life for those of us who live in these densely populated areas, especially for our children. Thank you.
I'll move to approve. Thank you. I got a motion.
I'll second.
Got a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries unanimously. Thanks, Dale. 6.1, monthly verbal update message from RTC Executive Director Bill Thomas.
Thank you, Chairman Lawson. A couple of project information items I wanted to share with you, and then also quite a few good things about what we're doing with the staff here. So I wanted to start with what we feel some really good news, and it has to do with the Arlington Avenue Bridges project, which we talked about earlier. So the Federal Highway Administration approved the environmental clearance for the project earlier this month, which is a substantial part of moving this project forward. We're very pleased with that, and I want to make sure the board and the community knew that. This approval will allow us to move forward with our permits and construction using the federal funding, which will primarily be the source of funding for this project. I'd also like to take this opportunity, I'm not sure if I see her here, to personally thank Judy Tortelli, who has been intimately involved with this project from the beginning. As the board knows, it's had a very challenged and complex process to get to this point, but I'm particularly proud of her efforts in leading this as the project manager and the dedication and commitment she's shown on this project to get us here. We anticipate the construction beginning in 2025, and a lot of that, just to disclose to the public and to you, is based on the permitting process, which we don't control, but again, we've made a major stride forward in getting this permit. The project's anticipated to take up to 2 years, and as we talked about in an earlier item, we're seeing if we can't compress that down to a single year, and we'll do our best working with our CMAR partner to see if we can achieve that. But just wanted to let the board know about that specific progress on that project. The second one I wanted to talk about, and this is not anything that the board needs to take action on, but is important, I think, for the board to be aware of. We've been working very close with the Reno-Sparks Indian Colony about a potential road in the future that would connect the Spanish Springs to Lemon Valley. We did a study that some of you may remember. It's been a few years, and we spent quite a bit of time on it looking at alternatives. I think we had up to 15 different ways that those two areas could be connected, and we came up with a preferred alternative, which the board supported. That particular alternative, the preferred route, or what we're calling the southern route, would run from Deodore Way to Wingfield Hills Road, just south of Lazy 5. The Board of County Commissioners, I think, recently approved a resolution on the Truckee Meadows Public Land Management Act. That particular action does influence many of the parcels that we would need to achieve this roadway in the future. So, in speaking with Reno-Sparks Indian Colony and the Senator Rosen's office, we've kind of all agreed that a next good step for us at RTC would be to file permits with the Bureau of Land Management to get going on setting aside the roadway easements or the roadway right-of-way for that road to eventually be moving forward. It doesn't necessarily mean we're going to move quickly onto it, but it is a major part of what we'll need to make that road happen. So I just want to let the board know that we're doing that, and again, to reiterate that we're working directly with the Indian Colony because they have asked for the land to be part of the land held in trust for them. So, and the board may remember, we also have a memorandum of understanding with them about this particular road. So wanted to put it out there publicly and to the board to let you know that that's kind of a next step, is to file a permit with BLM for that roadway in anticipation of someday in the future needing it. Now I'd like to move to some announcements about our staff. So first, I want to publicly welcome Jim Gee as our new Director of Public Transportation and Operations. Jim, as of Monday, I think of this week, or last week? Last week. This week, okay. Jim stepped up to take over that position, and I would tell the board that we actually did a national recruitment for this position. And Jim, not surprisingly to me, rose to the top in terms of the proper and right candidate for our organization for where we're going to go. So I'm proud that Jim accepted that position and is moving into it. We do have the luxury of having Mark Maloney, who's done a lot to make us kind of the cutting edge agency that we are, that he's going to hang around until December to kind of help all the loose ends be tied up. So right now we have two very highly qualified individuals on our staff to perfect our public transportation effort. Jim's been with RTC since December of 2019. He came to us from the Toledo Area Rapid Transit Authority in Ohio, where he worked for about 25 years, most of which of that time he was the chief executive officer. So he clearly has, and has demonstrated to me and to the rest of us who work at RTC, his particular knowledge in the world of public transportation. Specifically for us, he's been instrumental in our recent transit app updates, the service changes that we've recently completed and will be moving forward based on the TOPS plan, and probably most importantly, he's intimately involved and is very familiar with our TOPS plan, which is the plan we're going to be using to advance public transportation in our community to help many of the people who need that service. I'm looking forward to working with Jim and him leading our public transportation operations team and continuing RTC's success as a transit industry leader. So just wanted to acknowledge Jim and thank him and let the board be aware that we've made that change. I'm also very happy to introduce the new general manager at Keolis, Reno, who's Don Swain. So Don, if you wouldn't mind. He comes to us from Portland, Oregon. He's been a regional vice president, general manager, and director for transit companies in Portland area and in San Diego. He's worked in the public transportation industry for more than 40 years, most recently as a consultant, so he brings a wealth of experience to Keolis Reno. Don is stepping in for Phil, who happens to also be here. Pumphrey, who I think decided it was a little too cool for us here, so he wanted to go down where it's a little warmer, and he's moving to Austin, Texas. No, actually, all joking aside, I think Phil's actually from Austin originally, so he's able to move back home. Keolis recently was awarded the responsibility or the opportunity to run Austin's public transportation system, so I think all the things aligned for Phil personally to move into that position, so he'll be leaving and we'll be missing him, but Don, I think, will be a great person to step in that role, and so we're looking forward to it, and wanted to welcome Don today. So a couple of RTC staff announcements. The first one I wanted to start with is Alex Cruz's promotion. So Alex is stepping in. He's been with us for, I want to say, a year or so. Bit of time. Came from Carson City, but Alex is now going to be the Senior Technical Transit Operations Planner, who's going to be a key member of the staff, working with Jim in terms of how we run and manage our public transportation system. The position was opened when Michael Delude retired last month. Alex has proven to be a very capable and valuable asset to our agency, and actually extremely quick learner in stepping in and taking over some of these responsibilities. And I'm very confident he'll continue the success of our organization and will be a great asset to us as we move forward in the world of public transportation. In addition, I wanted to announce Brian Byrne, and I think Brian's here. There he is. Hi, Brian. He's our new project manager, and he started on September 18th. Brian comes to us from Carson City Public Works, where he managed paving, drainage, traffic control, and roadway projects, so very familiar with the world of roadway design and construction. Prior to Carson City, Brian worked on many RTC projects during his time in the private sector. His background and experience will be a great addition to our team. And just another personal note, I guess Brian likes to make all of his changes at once because he took on this job and he just got married. So big changes in many ways, Brian. So welcome to the team. Looking forward to you being a great member of our excellent team here at RTC. I'd also like to thank Derek Campbell for all of his hard work. I don't know if Derek's here today. I don't see him. He's probably busy working. Derek celebrated his 5th anniversary with RTC on September 24th. He's one of our facility maintenance specialists, and he does a great job keeping our facilities and equipment in good shape. So he's been very successful at that, and I just wanted to acknowledge him for his 5 years of service. Moving on to our contractors, I wanted to congratulate Keolis Driver of the Month, Eddie King Jr. I don't know if Eddie's here today. Nope. Eddie's worked as a bus operator for RTC Ride since February of 1997. His on-time performance in September was 97% with 0 accidents. Eddie is originally from Los Angeles and moved to Reno in the early 90s. He likes in his spare time to spend it with his family and enjoys cooking. So hopefully he'll enjoy our upcoming event where we bring some food, which I wanted to mention. We will let me make sure. Oh, here it is. Okay. I'm grateful for, just to acknowledge the grateful hard work of our Keolis and MTM employees. I'm pleased to announce we'll be holding an employee appreciation event sponsored by Commissioner Reese for both companies on November 7th. Food trucks will serve pastries, coffee, and other drinks from 1 to 3:30 at both our Sutro and Villanova facilities. These employees do such a great job in keeping our system running, and we wanted to take this opportunity to show our gratitude. So I would invite all the board members If you can swing by at that time, you can actually get a cup of coffee and a pastry with our Keolis and MTM employees. And then the last item I wanted to mention is the MTM Employee of the Month. Ramon Robles is been with MTM Transit since 2016. He's a very well-liked driver in our community. Before coming to RTC Access, he worked in a community center where he helped people with disabilities. So he's got a strong background in working with people who have physical challenges and need that help and support. And I would say a perfect person to fit into the role that, and the responsibilities of an access driver. He loves spending time with his coworkers during breaks and employee events. He's got a lot of great memories with colleagues and looks forward to creating more in the future. Ramon enjoys spending his free time with his 3 children and attending live events around the Reno-Sparks area. So again, thank you, Ramon, and that concludes my presentation or my comments this morning.
Thank you very much. 6.2, Paul Nelson, Government Affairs.
Good morning. Paul Nelson, Government Affairs Officer. So Congress, the House of Representatives is still trying to
Get a
find.
pause on that. Wait for the laughter.
Yeah. So the House is still trying to find Kevin McCarthy's replacement as a speaker. Congressman Jim Jordan just failed this morning to get, for the third time, to get enough votes to replace McCarthy. It's really kind of unclear right now how this might affect the appropriations process because the continuing resolution expires November 17th, so there's not a lot of time to get those 12 appropriations bills passed through Congress and then get the president's signature. The House T&I Infrastructure Subcommittee on Highways and Transit is discussing some of the challenges that are associated with some of the financing of the projects, road projects, because of concerns in the funds of the Highway Trust Fund. So they're looking at the possibility of increasing the fuel tax or even indexing it to inflation. And another thing that they're discussing is possibly transitioning to some kind of a road user charge. 4 Republican senators have introduced legislation to add a fee for EV owners that would go into the Highway Trust Fund, and it's called the Stop EV Freeloading Act. This is something that we're interested if it's meant to replace some of those taxes that we're losing because of people switching to EVs. Our partners in Washington say this bill does have some legs, but one of the concerns is what's the intent of the bill? Are they trying to replace these taxes or are they trying to stymie the growth in the EV market? So we'll be watching that one. The Mileage-Based User Fee Alliance National Conference is next week in Washington, D.C., and Laura Freed will be attending on RTC's behalf. The RTC submitted our application for the SMART grant for $1.1 million. That funding would go towards pedestrian improvements on Plum Lane between the airport and South Virginia Street using artificial intelligence, and we expect an announcement on that sometime early next year. APTA held its Transform Conference and Expo in Orlando last week, and more than 10,000 people from around the country, maybe even around the world, I'm not sure about that, attended this. Some of them were RTC staff. Jim Gee gave a presentation about hydrogen fuel cell buses, and from what I'm told, this was one of the most popular panels of the entire conference with standing room only, so thanks to Jim and our other colleagues who attended. Last month, I told you about Senator Cortez Masto's bill about human trafficking. And to show support, we're going to be wrapping one of our buses just to raise awareness about the issue. So thank you, Commissioner Garcia, for using discretionary funds to wrap that bus. And we're going to invite the senator to come out and show it off in the next couple of months. Thanks.
Any questions? Thanks, Paul. Appreciate it. All right, Darren, you're up.
Good morning. Can you hear me fine?
Yes, sir.
Good, thank you. My presentation up here. Thanks, Michelle. And I'm happy to be here virtually to present today. I apologize for my absence. The director and I were invited to a forum for the governor's office, so we're not able to attend. Next slide, please. Oh. I'm actually looking at your slides. Yeah, you can see the I-80 East slide now.
Nope.
Working on it. Can't see it, Darren, but we're working on it.
No, that's fine. I know Michelle was gonna handle it for me from there easier than from here, so,
We got it.
okay.
Darren,
so-
you can see what we see if you look at the screen behind the dais.
Yep, that's what I'm doing. Thank you.
Thank you.
So first, NDOT will host an online public meeting, followed by an in-person public meeting to gather input on our potential improvements coming to I-80. The online public meeting, as you see, actually starts on Monday. The project is between Vista Boulevard and USA Parkway, east of Sparks, out to the Trick. And we are looking at basically widening the highway out to Trick and other safety and mobility improvements. So right now the project's in the environmental phase. You heard Bill mention the environmental phase earlier. We all go through it. In addition to adding lanes, certain existing interstate bridges will be widened or replaced. Other enhancements will be made to improve traffic mobility and safety. You see also we'll have an in-person meeting taking place November 7th at the Lockwood Community Center from 4 to 7 p.m. And a virtual meeting will run all month. So if anyone's interested, the website you see there is i80eastnv.com. Next slide, please. All right, so this is heads up about an interchange closure. The ramps and the road underneath Pyramid Interchange on 80 have deteriorated significantly, and we're going to get in there and repave that. So to do that most effectively in the least time period of affecting traffic, we're going to do all 4 I-80 Pyramid Way interstate ramps are going to be closed. That's going to start tonight at 9 and run as long as possible, but not exceeding Monday morning at 5 a.m. After that, we hope to do all of the dense grade paving and the traffic counting loops this weekend. Periodic other closures for doing the open grade on top of that. We know this is last minute before we get winter weather. We'll have some cooler weather over the weekend, but we're going to get that paving done and get this interchange back up and running and have a good surface there for throughout the winter and into the foreseeable future. Next slide, please. Thank you. Just so this is really a wrap up. We've talked about this project a couple of times, even before the rib cook-off, which seems like ages ago, but update on our reconstruction of I-580 between Peckham and Mill Street. Since April, we pulled out all that concrete, replaced it with new asphalt. We also replaced the polymer concrete overlay over the top of the RTC terminal. Keep those buses dry when they're supposed to be dry. We are basically 80% complete on the project because other things besides the paving were lighting, signals, the bridge work I mentioned, and some bridge work on the airport flyover. And just again, thanks to everyone for tolerating our 4 marathon weekend closures that resulted in a huge reduction in impact to the traveling public. So that project will be done, wrapped up by winter, and the road will be open and much easier to snowplow when and we know that's going to happen. Next slide. Thank you. So an update on you've heard about our Highway 50 Lake Tahoe corridor study. We did an online public survey to get as broad a possible outreach for what you can see the people that responded on the slide here, but to get responses to potential lane reductions up at the lake. So the survey was hugely successful. We got 1,931 individual results in terms of responses to the survey. There was multiple opportunities for submitting comments in that survey, so 3,000 more comments. The survey respondents came from all over the area. Notably, on the left side of your screen, you see El Dorado County and other. El Dorado County also includes South Lake Tahoe, just on the California side of the border up at South Lake. So a lot of good input up and down the East Shore, North Shore, and including from Washoe County, Carson, and Douglas County, because we know that Highway 50 is a route that affects everybody who travels in the vicinity. So we appreciate everybody's input to that survey. We are collecting that data from the survey, and we're going to present it to our board in November, and analyzing the data, going to put it together in a presentation format, present it to our board in November, and even beyond that, all of these additional comments and survey inputs are going to be incorporated into the final corridor study. So that corridor study is going to be wrapped up. Draft is going to be prepared in coordination with how we do a corridor study. That final draft will go out to comment to the public, and we'll have one last wrap-up public comment meeting. So survey out to the public about December, and then last public meeting in January, and then the results will be put out as a corridor study. And this commission has heard about many corridor studies, and really the same thing is the effect. The corridor study is going to make recommendations for the future, and they could be short-term, they could be long-term improvements that are recommended, but based on how and when we, TRPA, anybody else can implement some of those changes, they will be, much like we did with the Mount Rose corridor study. Beyond, maybe before that study, we've been talking about this study for many months. We also have a pavement preservation project that covers the same limits from State Line north to Spooner Summit. That pavement preservation project is under design. It's actually almost complete. It'll be advertised in November, and then construction on rehabbing that pavement, which is sorely needed, will commence in May. So starting in May and taking 2 construction seasons, because up at the lake, we know the construction season is pretty short. We will be rehabbing the pavement, addressing drainage issues, guardrail. We're going to do some wider striping. We're going to do some speed feedback signs. We're not including any lane reductions as the survey inquired about. Those will not be included in the design of this project that's going out. As I said, it'll start construction in May, and from May to October is not too long. So it'll take 2 years of construction to rehab that pavement. And we'll keep the RTC updated on that as that progress continues. And that is the end of my report. I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right, questions from the commission? Okay. Thank you, Darren.
Good, thank you.
Okay, let's move on to item 7, Commissioner announcements and update. Anyone have any announcements? Ms. Burton?
Mr. Chair, I just wanted to express my thanks to Paul Nelson and staff for showing up at a Sun Valley CAB meeting on a bright, shiny Saturday morning and making themselves available to answer questions, present, and address concerns. So just a huge thank you to Bill also for being accessible to questions and requests.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I may, please, I just wanted to embarrass our friend Art Sperber for a moment. He's spending his 36th birthday with us today. I'm sure there are far better places to spend a birthday than in this room, but Art, of course, has been a gracious friend to this region for many years and has worked hard on countless boards and commissions. So happy birthday, my friend. Thank you so much for being here for it.
Which anniversary of your 36th birthday?
Is there a multiplier factor?
Yeah, there definitely. You have anything?
I do.
Go ahead.
I also would like to give recognition to Mr. Nelson and Mr. Keller, and really for coming to the CAB and sharing all of the wonderful projects in Spanish Springs. You're going to be part of our family for the next several years, so I do appreciate the level of detail, and really the questions were robust. So I do really appreciate that opportunity to share with my constituents how important it is to understand the great work that you're doing. So thank you.
Okay. You done?
Well, it reminds me, I know, I looked at you and you know I have that look in my eye. I wanted to I'll point out in the spirit of my colleagues who are thanking RTC and NDOT for appearing at our public meetings. Last night, I think we had the Ward 4 Neighborhood Advisory Board, and of course, RTC, NDOT, and the city were there to provide some guidance and input. And so it's just great to know that our staff are out there working so hard to share the good work that they're doing and to take input from the community. I really appreciated both the commissioners for highlighting that, and so I didn't want to ignore the fact that they had been out to the Ward 4 NAB last night.
Okay, thank you. All right, let's move on to public comment. Mr. Damian Cole.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The last presentation I gave was on a negative note. I want to balance it out with a plan. This is the neighborhood that surrounds the Vine Street Bridge. Very self-explanatory, residential, commercial. Next slide, please. These are the human-scale, small side streets that connect this neighborhood. 6th Street is particularly nice because it has a roundabout underneath the bridge on ground level. And it goes directly to where In-N-Out and all of that shopping center is. Next, please. These are the corridors that cyclists currently use. These are on human scale, but they need improvement. Next, please. We already did 5th Street. Now we just need to connect it. Next, please. Intersections are a mess because there's no connectivity in this neighborhood. Red X's means no go. Untraversable unless you're on the sidewalk, unless you want to, exactly like what Kerry Koski said, Center Street, bad. Freeway interchange, bad. Vine Street, you have to go uphill either way. That's why cyclists don't use it. Only motorbikes and e-scooters and e-bikes use that because they're more like cars. Next, please. If you connect everything up, this creates an entire gap fix-up for this entire neighborhood, which goes all the way to the Rayleighs and the CVS. Also, Washington Street, north of that, it's beyond the scope of the project, but that goes all the way up to San Rafael Regional Park. So you get more for your money. Next, please. How to design it. Next, please. This has a lot of information on it. No road diet, doesn't interrupt emergency vehicle routes, existing right-of-ways, no traffic lights, adds a safety intersection at a busy intersection that's missing a crosswalk, no parking lost, no flexi posts or bollards needed along the entire corridor, no special street cleanings needed. Cheaper, faster, more people, connects more destinations, fixes up gaps in the network, and it's only 10 feet wide, thick. Bikeway. What's a bikeway? Next, please. Shared use path. What's a shared use path? How can we do this? We're not Amsterdam yet. That's what I keep hearing. We don't have as many cycles as Amsterdam, obviously. Next, please. This is the formula that I use for my planning. The more people that share that same shared use path, the more room you need. Next, please. We're going to go through these one by one. Just go ahead and just go forward through all of them. This is a shared use path. Next, go all the way, got 13 seconds left. This is our main artery, 15 feet, goes down to 5 feet. Everyone uses it. This is where you put it, connect it up, put bollards there, go all the way down, off the street, off the street, off the street, all the way down to First, and then you have a bikeway that connects back, and right there, that quarter mile, go back to that one. I can fit 5 Washington Street bridges into the Vine Street Bridge. It's 5 times longer than the one that people use, and it's lower, flatter, and wider, and can have facilities.
Thank you, Mr. Cole.
Thank you.
All right, Amanda Nelson.
I'm back. I had something else to talk about. Okay, so there are certain bus stops that have caught my eye as being really dangerous to stop at. A lot of the times, the red zones aren't far enough back, so when you pull your bus in, and there's cars here, you pull your bus in so your tail end is sticking out into traffic. We have one that I can definitely name right now. I brought Mr. Delude on, is the time point at Howard Drive and Spring Meadows on the Route 11. You can't park there without either your tail end sticking out or you pulling all the way and blocking the entire crosswalk. And it's dangerous, especially being a time point. The time point on 7th Street on the Route 11 as well at Walmart. You're halfway in the road, so there's 2 lanes of traffic. Now you only have 1.5 lanes. Cars are swerving around you. Sometimes we sit there for quite some time. Sometimes there's 2 or 3 buses there. I've also noticed that on Sierra Highlands, we go on Sierra Highlands, but there's no bus stop. And I think that if you put a bus stop in there and made that the time point, much safer, you're out of the way. You have access to those businesses right there for a restroom. It would work a lot better. And also, if we could consider adding signal lights to some of our bus stops that are in the dark. There's a lot of really dark areas that we drive through. Sun Valley is just one of them. A lot of 4th Street. Sometimes you can't see people at those bus stops. And if we could get like a little button they can push when they see the bus coming that just flashes a little light for us, we see them, we know they're there, we can stop for them and not pass them up. And I also wanted to comment on the driver appreciation. If you're doing it at Villanova, there's no drivers there. We're at 4th Street Station during the day, in and out of 4th Street. Villanova, maybe you have 1 or 2 standbys there. But if you want to do a driver appreciation, I would suggest 4th Street Station, where we're in and out of there all day, especially at 1 to 3 p.m. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else in the public wishing to make comment at this time? All right, I'll bring it back to the dais and we'll go to number 9, adjournment.
Hi, hello.
Back to order for public comment. Go ahead, Dora.
Hi, good morning. One of my favorite mayor of the world in the world. This is Dora Martinez. I just want to thank all of you all for doing such a great job, and I want to thank Mr. and I'm going to butcher his name, Jim, the person who's going to replace Mark Maloney for ADA. Thank you for working with us and listening to us. I know we are going to have a very productive, workable relationship in the future moving forward. I want to thank you, Mayor, Chair Lawson, for your staff at Sparks are so compassionate, and they really help people that I bring to their office for rental assistance. And that goes same to my Vice Mayor Reed and Mayor Sheeby. We always, and I always want to quote my mayor, we got to do better, because better together will make our city the biggest, little friendliest city to live. And I also want to agree and ditto the prior speakers, especially regarding the buses. And you all know that I do have an almost retired lab retriever, Sarge. We walk all over the place, especially here where I live in the northwest Reno by Coles and Man. Those buses, it really is a safety hazard, especially when you're blind, right? And you're depending on a dog to cross on a crosswalk, and there's buses, and I hope that the bus drivers see me, because I can't see them. And I do hear a big motor, but my dog tells me to go, and I go. But then if you're at the end of that bus, that's pretty scary. So please look into that and make sure that everyone who uses the crosswalk and the sidewalks are safe. And I also want to thank the NDOT people, especially the ADA coordinator there. I don't know if he's still there, Peter Shaw, I think that's his last name. He was super gracious and awesome and understand, and he helped put on some of the audible pedestrian signals, and those are the ones that talk really loud. So when we cross McCarran and Prater, you can hear it, and you know it's safe to cross. So thank you for making our city a better place to live, and thank you, Mayor Lawson, for always listening and thank you so much. And also, I just want to remind everybody, please drop non-perishable food and socks and shoes for our youth at the Karma box. And when you do drop non-perishable food, please make sure they're not expired because they're going to feed human beings. Thank you. Have a great Friday. Bye-bye.
All right, thank you. All right, one last call. Anyone in the public wishing to speak? No? All right, we'll adjourn.